Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Canes with another live stream, and this is something we've put together the last few weeks. It's been largely successful. Thank you so much for your input, comments, questions. Yeah, the U is in the house with a wholesome one repping the Canes, and we put together a little Q&A session with the wholesome one here the last few weeks, and it's worked out well. So we invite you to join the live chat. Leave your comments and questions. We're also going to pull from some of the recent videos that we posted with the Wholesome One and with Cam Underwood. And so we're going to respond each and every week to Miami Hurricanes Q&A. And we've got the Wholesome One in the house. Man, how you doing today?
I'm blessed to see another day, Mark. It's exciting time for us Miami Hurricanes right now. I mean, I even had to pull a jersey out. Usually I have my sideline coach attire look, but I had to pull the jersey out today, man. The energy in the U universe, or the U family, like we like to call it, man, it's growing. Getting to bring in a national champion and a Super Bowl champion like Ed Reed, and even a better person, and have been able to have him influx into our program, just having him around our day-to-day ops, man, it's an exciting thought. But at the same time, wait and see approach. But a hire like this is definitely a home run. I mean, to bring a guy like this in, he's young enough to where he retired in 2015 to where these young men know who Ed Reed is. I mean, just last year had his Hall of Fame speech. These recruits know who Ed Reed is and how impactful he is. So I'm just excited to have him be a part of the University of Miami's football program moving forward.
And speaking of growing, let's grow the channel right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and also head on over to the Wholesome One right here on YouTube to check out Miami football content on a regular basis as well. So based on what you've gathered from all the sources you've looked into in regards to what Ed Reed's role is going to be there at the U, what are you picking up on that end of it?
And that's the beautiful part about him actually being hired, because when the Alonzo Highsmith, hashtag Highsmith, I kind of take credit for that one. Hashtag Highsmith, I got on live and spoke about that. But we ended up getting Coach Ed Reed. And you were able to get not only from Bleachers Report, not only from the University of Miami, from ESPN, all these other places, that they were able to actually give us a description of what his job will entail. Now, Ed Reed will be, it's an advisory role. So he's going to be an advisor to head coach Manny Diaz, the players, and also the rest of the coaching staff. He's going to be able to have a hand in strategic planning, quality control, operations, player evaluation, and player development. He also will be able to have a hand in team building, student-athlete mentorship, and recruiting. Now, if you take a step back, student-athlete mentorship, being able to mentor these young men, they need someone to look up to, that when Ed Reed says something, it means a little different. Just like Coach Manny Diaz spoke about with Coach Blake Baker. It took a while for the players to, when Coach Blake Baker said something, the new defensive coordinator, when he said something, it didn't hit as much as when Manny came over and said, this is the blitz we're calling, this is the defense we're going to go, and you're going to go out here and do it. It was different coming from Coach Manny Diaz as it was coming from Blake Baker. So if we could take that step from Blake Baker to Manny, imagine now having Coach Ed Reed come in and say something to you, the exact same thing. It's going to be impactful, just a tad bit different, with a national champion and an NFL Hall of Famer, and regarded as the top 3 safety of all time, top 5, at least, no conversation, both in college and in the NFL. Speaking to you, that is huge. Now, the biggest thing that I learned today in my research was that he will not be able to go on off-campus visits, off-campus recruiting. But once the young men come on our campus, then he will be able to speak to them and, engage with them and things of that nature for on-campus visits and official visits and things of that nature, but not traveling the road as a recruiter for the University of Miami.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, working with a little hot tea right here, so I can truly once again be the voice of college football once we get it restored here. But
I got my water. I'm with you.
We got the Wholesome One on the line. So this is something the Wholesome One and I have put together here in recent weeks, where we brought him on each and every week to talk Miami football, and more so respond to your comments and questions. So this is one of the big reasons why it's important for you to lock in on the channel, subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, because you get the notifications and because based on schedules, we can't set a specific day and time each and every week. It's when the Wholesome One and I can get together. So you need to get those notifications so you know when we're coming on here live to talk Miami football. A lot of thoughts out there, a lot of hopes in the direction of Avante Williams, Wholesome One. And certainly I went through the recruiting rankings just a few days ago and cut 3 videos which highlighted the only 3 players that are still unsigned out of the 247 composite top 100 players. And he certainly was prominent as the number 2 safety. So the early signing period in December has completely taken over, but there's still a few stragglers out there, and he's certainly one of the elites. So what are your thoughts on Avante Williams?
I wouldn't say I'm a believer just yet, mainly because, we've kind of seen this movie a lot as Miami Hurricanes fans. We've seen this a lot. People kind of straggle us along. They say we love the U. It's the dream school. I've always wanted to go there. They come put on our uniform. They give them the turnover chains, and they throw up the U, and that's about it. We've had a plethora of highly sought-after recruits come and do that exact same thing to Miami year in and year out for at least half a decade, at minimum half a decade. Now, this situation is slightly different. It's 2 sides to this. On one side, you have his blood relative cousin who left us. Lorenzo Lingard left us for the Florida Gators, who spoke horribly about the program, the coaches, the players, and his mistreatment at the University of Miami on one side. On the other side, Avante Williams has said multiple times he's always wanted to be a Cane. He wants to come to Miami. And the coach who coached him for the Under Armour All-American game just signed yesterday to be our chief of staff. And he spoke on Twitter loving the hire and loving bringing that type of mentality, that championship mentality, to the University of Miami. So it's 2 sides to this. You ask my personal opinion, I just love to see Miami giving it a chance. He's one of the 3 players that's unsigned. What's the worst that you can do by having a young man come on your campus, giving him, an on-campus visit, and doing a full court press and seeing exactly what can come out of it? If he doesn't sign with you, you can say you swung, you tried. You can't hit home runs without swinging the bat or going up to the plate. You got to give it a shot. He's an in-state guy. He's a guy that's getting recruited by an in-state rival. You have to give yourself a chance with a good safety like Avante Williams. I mean, he's a borderline 5-star. 247 has him as a 97 percentile. He's one of the best safeties and one of the best players in the state of Florida. Also, I spoke about that campus visit. Florida got word of it and had him come on an official visit the very next day on the 24th of January. So he's written in on almost everybody's board as a 100% Florida Gator. And that's just how it's going to be. At the end of the day, Tracy Howard was also a 100% Florida Gator. And he chose the U on national TV. And everybody was like, whoa, what's going on in Miami when Al Golden, I believe coming off of 2012, because that was a 2013 recruiting class. So the 2012 season, coming off of a 6-6 or 7-5 season, just signed the number 1 corner in the nation. So crazier things have happened in college football. And at the end of the day, when your gut and your intuition says, I've always wanted to be a Cane, and you finally get a chance to be one, some people actually choose it. So we never know what can happen.
And that's the interesting part here, Wholesome One, because, again, I posted a player profile on Avante Williams a few days ago, so I did a little research and digging into not only the scouting reports, but what the young man has had to say on Twitter, and multiple reports out there making comments that he really, really, really wants to go to Miami. And what's that telling me is that if the status of the program and the success of the program matched up with his desire, then he would have signed in December. It would be done. But he's wanting to know, man, is this going to be the Miami that's losing 5 and 6 games a year during my career? Am I going to play for that team, or is something going to show me during these visits and discussions with the coaching staff something to where I can have some faith that we're going to be a championship contender, because, man, I want to be here, but I also want to be playing for championships.
And listen, that's something that we have a continuous argument about within our fan base and within our family is, hey, we want these recruits. But if that was your son, if that was your nephew, if that was your cousin, and he has Nick Saban or, an 11-win Florida Gator team that just came in and beat us on national TV. You got Tallahassee people coming in. You got Oregon, Cristobal coming in. He just won a Rose Bowl. And they're sitting in your house or going – you guys are all going over there because you hear Nick Saban's in the house to see your cousin or to see your nephew. And you come in with the Canes gear on and you all caned up and you telling him you want him to be a Cane. And you got all these great coaches walking in. Would you advise him to still be a Miami Hurricane? Do you want him to have that chance to be on a national scale, on a national TV opportunity? As we see, every couple of years, Miami has that nice run, 2013, 2017, maybe 2020. Maybe it swings back around for one more year. But on a consistent basis, will Miami be up there? Of course, we all want it to be, but can we get the coaching and the player connection to be that? And with Avante Williams, I can definitely understand why he's having second thoughts. If I'm being 100% honest, I can see why he would think back and forth. Of course, there's always, well, come here and be the reason why we're a perennial powerhouse. Come here and be the reason why we're considered DBU again in the 2020s. Come here and be, especially because your love and affinity for Ed Reed, come here and learn under him every single day. Be mentored by him every single day. So I think these are the things that's battling back and forth in his head. Do I go to Florida and just be a guy? Or do I go to Miami and be the reason why they turn things around? So I can definitely understand where he's coming from.
Wholesome one back on the Ed Reed topic. Interesting slant from James Vose on the line. Basically, because you've got one of the great players in the program's history, Ed Reed, one of the great players in college football history, one of the great players in pro football history, a first ballot automatic Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
Does his presence take away from Manny Diaz and the respect level? And as James Vose, I'll basically just read it as he states it right there. Does this make Manny Diaz's job more secure, less secure? If Ed Reed demands more respect than the head coach, does it undermine the authority of the program? I don't know how much Ed Reed is going to be in the locker room. Right. I know he's going to be close to the team, but on a daily basis, I don't know that he's necessarily going to be that close. I don't know.
Right. I mean, for anyone that knows Ed Reed, he's always wanted to be involved with football and coaching. And I personally think he'll be in a locker room probably every single day that he can legally be in there. That's the thing about this job is it's new. And even the description I gave, it's more of here's the things that his job falls under as opposed to what he can and can't do, So per NCAA rules, he can do a lot of those things and be around the team and communicate with the team and even go over film and all of those type of things. So to answer that question, it's actually a really good question. I have to be careful in the way that I say this. I think that Ed Reed's respect is going to be something that he won't have to undertone Coach Manny Diaz. He won't have to undercut him. He won't have to disrespect him to get that respect from the players. They already have it for him. I believe that they're going to work as a unit. They're going to get on the same page. When I'm talking about them, I'm speaking to Coach Ed Reed and Coach Manny Diaz. Sit down and come with a way that they're going to come at this team and at the program and moving forward as a unit. Let's sit down and discuss this so that when you speak, Coach Manny Diaz, it's echoed by me. Or when I speak, it's echoed by you. We're working together, not separate. So I don't think that the respect that these players will have for Coach Ed Reed is going to necessarily affect the respect that they will have for Coach Manny Diaz. At this point, I think it's going to go up because they're going to be happy that he was willing to bring Ed Reed in to help the program. So if that answers the question, I don't see it being a big respect issue at all. I think that they're going to, and it doesn't make Manny Diaz's job any less secure. In my opinion, once this works out well, which I think it will, it's going to only make it better because they're going to be working as a unit, not separate from each other.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with the Wholesome One on the line. This is something we've presented to you a few weeks in a row, and we're going to continue each and every week where we grab the Wholesome One, bring them on here to answer your Miami football questions. And again, that's another big reason why you need to lock in on the notifications, subscribe to the channel, because we don't have a set day and time to do this each and every week. Schedules are all over the place, so you got to get the notifications to know when we're going to do the live stream. We're up to 55 on the line. So if you've missed any of the conversation to this point, which is centered around Ed Reed and Avante Williams, what you need to do is wait for the video to post. You head on back and you check it out from there. We've talked Avante Williams, Ed Reed. Also, National Signing Day is coming up. Let's see. This is a Friday. We only have 5 days to National Signing Day, which has become an afterthought with the early signing day and most of the elite programs signing 85 to 90% of their talent in December. But for Miami, actually, there's a few more variables than there are for a lot of the other top teams. So who are some of those targets you're looking at right now?
For me, I think there's a difference. I think there's a hole at defensive tackle for us. And really it was left by Willie Moise, defensive tackle, offensive guard. He played both ways. And the biggest thing about Willie is his academic issues. You know, not to put the young man on Front Street, but it's well known that he has academic issues and may not be able to make it into the University of Miami, especially for this recruiting class. And supposedly it's far away, so he won't be able to have it handled by Wednesday. For me, I think – oh, thank you, James. I appreciate that. For me, the solution to that would be Wesley Neal. He's from Gulliver Prep, a 6'1", 6'1.5", 317-pound one technique, which is what we were going to bring in Willie Moise for. But he has a Miami offer. There's just been this back and forth as to if they're going to actually allow him to commit here or sign here. According to 247, we've warmed on him, but from any account of any recruitment that we speak about in the Cane universe, a lot of people don't think that we are taking him as serious. And this is a young man that is a diehard Miami Hurricane fan, grew up a Miami Hurricane fan. He plays that aggressive way. Very strong. Has a great way of disengaging with guards and getting rid of guards. And that's the biggest thing here at Miami under Coach Blake Baker. We don't disengage. We just clamp on the people and hold our gap. Well, Wesley Neal does a lot better than that. He can blow you up, disengage, and go make a play. So I personally think that he is a Miami Hurricanes take. We have to see if they're going to allow him to actually sign and commit to the University of Miami. He's choosing between Rutgers, Indiana, and Miami. That just seems like a no-brainer to me. Miami over both of those institutions. But at the same time, you have to also look at being able to come here and play. Is it a committable offer? All of those type of things when these other schools are really showing you a lot of love. But Wesley Neal, if you ever come across this video, the host one would love to see you be a Miami Hurricane. And hopefully the University of Miami comes to their senses and allows you here to play ball at the U. Not only for Wesley Neal, but we have Isaiah Dunson, who is a committed Miami Hurricane as of January 19th. Texas and Florida are coming after this young man hard. When you're 6'2", 180 pounds, playing football in Georgia, with the film that this man puts together as a wide receiver, you know, he's a lot of bombs and a lot of posts on his highlight tape and the dynamic athletic ability that he brings to the table. A lot of those schools would love to have them come in and be a part of their program. You know, now, if you look at the top 15 corners going into the NFL, the 2020 NFL draft, everyone's 6'1" or above. From 15 to number 1. 6'1" or above. So that means now having that 6'1" corner or having multiple 6'1" plus corners is the thing that every school wants to have. Long, athletic, fluid hips at the cornerback position. That is Isaiah Dunson. We need help at corner. We're paper thin at corner. 1 or 2 injuries, and we're going to have the same situation where we're playing young men who should be taking red shirts at Miami. If we're able to hold on to Isaiah Dunson, that would be a huge W for Coach Mike Rumph, who a lot of our fan base has attacked him for his recruiting. Being able to hold on to him would be huge for the University of Miami. So those are my three guys to keep an eye out on to see what's going on. Of course, you want to keep an eye out on Avante Williams. I mean, it's one of those things just like Justin Flo. When we watched Justin Flo, we were on edge, and he went after the Miami hat, and then he grabbed the Oregon hat. So we could have something similar with Avante Williams. He might go after that Miami hat. He might even put it on and throw it down. I hate when kids do that, but I mean, most likely he'll pick the Florida hat, but greater things have happened. And keep an eye out for Wesley Neal to see if Miami comes around and allows him to come here. Keep an eye out on Willie Moyes to see if he can get that academics handled and get in here. And also keep an eye out on Isaiah Dunson to see if he's going to finish out and finish his commitment to Miami. Because to me, if you're going to commit this late in signing, that means that you've taken your time to pick who you really want to go to. So if you're going to commit 16 days before the second signing day, then I think that you should sign with that school, in my eyes. If we're going to take your commitment, that means that we really want you here. And hopefully we keep an eye out on 6'2" Isaiah Dunson at the cornerback position.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We got the Wholesome One on the line, so lock it in right here. Each and every week, the Wholesome One and I get together to talk Miami football and answer your questions. 904 Hurricane, thank you for reminding everyone to hit the like button. If you don't do anything else to support the channel, hit the like button. I'm not going to go through all the algorithms of why it works and why we need it, but the least you can do for the Wholesome One and myself is hit the like button. Head on over to the Wholesome One's channel here on YouTube on YouTube, HOLSUM, the number one, HOLSUM, and the number one right here on YouTube to track Miami football. There's something, Wholesome One, that I've seen in the comments, and also it intrigues me as a guy who has played the sport at a high level yourself, and also is involved in a first-rate program there at North Dakota State. In regards to offense and defense, so defense wins championships. That's the old cliche.
Yeah.
We see just a different type of football and style of football that we've never seen before, and it's evolved and really exploded over the last 5 to 10 years, where we see a Joe Burrow throwing, who would have ever thought this, 60 touchdown passes this year.
In college.
There are programs that are being built and approaches that basically just say, hey, we want to score every time we touch the ball. We expect to score. We almost need to score. And we're just hoping our defense just makes it difficult for the offense to score, just makes tackles, just, contains the play. Right. An 18-yard gain is sometimes seen as a moral victory because we at least got the guy on the ground. And therefore, if our defense guys can just get their hands up, maybe bat a ball in the air, do something, strip the ball a few times, and maybe out of 12 to 15 possessions, maybe 3 times, we're not even stopping them really. We're just forcing a play or a mistake. Then that's a victory. Where just your thoughts about how important defensive football play is today, and if that's changed at all.
Okay. That's actually an amazing question. I think that it always has a way of bouncing back. And what I mean by it is the sport and the art of football and the art of coaching football. For the longest, you had every decade has had that defense that was hard. And then once it was unlocked, everyone else started watching that film and they were able to attack it. I mean, you had the 80s of the 46 defense with the Bears, and everybody was up on the line of scrimmage, and I think you had one high safety and probably one corner, something like that, and everybody was up, but that was because of who they were playing against and how they played the football at that time. Then you also moved to the 90s where you had the 3-4 starting to creep in, but a lot of people were still that 4-3, and then the 3-4 came in. You had that strong side edge rusher on one side, and you had the other edge rusher that can get after the QB. And then you started to see people kind of like that, but didn't like it because they didn't like the zero front of the nose being able to get doubled and blown back. So if you were to ask me about defense, I think that defense is still the most important thing. If I can stop you from scoring points, or if I can get after your QB as far as rushing the passer, if I can affect him and make him get off of his point, even something as simple as having a 3 technique like an RJ McIntosh, like he used to, at 6'4", 289 pounds, can bull rush your guard and get a hand up and force you to have to look and try to see around his arm to get where you really want to go with that ball. Something something slight as that can affect you and force a turnover. Or you having to get rid of that ball a little faster because my DNs are flying and getting after you, and now you throw an interception. I mean, even look at early on in that national championship game when you saw the big difference in the coaching as far as Clemson having one of the best co-offensive coordinators, who's now a head coach at USF, one of the best, if not the best, defensive mind in college football right now, Brett Venables. And he even came out with a 3-1-7. He invented a defense in 16 days to hold off as long as he could the LSU Tigers. Being able to be innovative and be modern on the defensive side of the ball is very, very important. So to me, if it's still about pass rush and tackling, of course, on the defensive side of the ball, but the game has changed to a pass first. And if you have enough athletes on the field to where everybody can do the 3 main things, everyone can pass rush, everyone can cover, everyone can tackle. I mean, from the defensive line all the way back to the safeties. If you have athletes that can do all 3 of those things across the board, I mean, think about your cat calls, your nickel blitzes, your boundary corner blitzes, where they come on and they actually sack the QB. So in my eyes, corners still need to be able to get after the QB or pass rush to a certain extent. Linebacker now is going to be one of the hardest positions because you need to be able to be fast, strong to take on blocks, get off blocks. You need to have great technique and non-false stepping, open field tackling, coverage in man and zone. You got to be able to catch. I mean, it's a lot at that linebacker position. But then at safety, you got to be able to run with these 4-2, 4-3 wide receivers, and now your tight ends too. So across the board, I think having athletes that can do all 3 phases of the major thing on the defensive side of the ball, which is pass rush, coverage, and tackle, is extremely important. And defense is just as important as in high-powered offense.
And the defensive front 7 over the past few years has been one of the best in college football. So despite all the losses, 6-7, 7-6, the last 2 years, that linebacking core obviously extremely experienced this past season and very productive. And the defensive line has been one of the better ones that I've seen in college football, led, of course, by Greg Russo, just being a monster this past season. Any concern that so you lose that wealth of production at linebacker where you had all those guys growing up and developing together and just being that stalwart of the defense, led by Shaq Quarterman, Michael Pinckney, and on down the line. And then the defensive line has been dominant. Do you have concerns that you're not going to be able to maintain that level of play in the front 7 this year?
I wouldn't say concerns, but I mean, it's always a cause to pause because you want to see it happen. You know, once these young men hit the door, the star system should go out the window. At most of those top tier programs, it does. Mm-hmm. As soon as you walk in, you're no longer 5-star Chad Thomas. You're Chad Thomas number 9. You're no longer 5-star Tracy Howard number 3. You're no longer 2-star Ed Reed. You're Ed Reed number 20. Come here, earn your space, on your keep, hit people in the mouth, make plays. Now, at Miami recently, we've had this big issue whether we were just awarding people starting positions because they were 4- and 5-star recruits that didn't really earn it, or we were kind of just giving jobs away to people and just, oh, well, you've been here the longest, so you're the starter or you're the captain of that position. As far as in the front 7, I think Miami's doing extremely well at the edge rush position. I mean, the length, the size, and athleticism, and the recruitment. The defensive front is something that I'm not really too worried about. The production of the interior linemen is what I'm worried about. Young men like Jordan Miller coming in and playing as many snaps as he could, mostly on run stop. He's probably our best defensive lineman, and he was a redshirt freshman. Next to him, as far as in the ranking system, and it's funny you asked this question because I just did a grading on the defensive tackles on my channel, so go ahead and check that out. The second best was Nasty Nestor Silvera, and he's coming off of an injury to where he had to miss the entire spring and the first 4 games of the season because he had ankle surgery. So, and he was the second best defensive tackle on our team. This is behind a senior in Pat Bethel and a 6'6" pass the eye test dude like John Ford, who literally could pick somebody up with his hand and just drive a guard back if he actually wanted to, because he has all of those intangibles and he checks off all of those things. But when you look at paper, pen and paper, or you Google these guys, they look good. Now we need them to produce. So yes, I'm worried about the interior production on defensive line. Exterior, as far as the edge, I'm not really worried about. When we take the step back to linebacker, we lose the production of Shaq Quarterman and Michael Pickney, but we gain the athleticism that is going to make our defense a lot more modern. Being able to have young men like Sam Brooks, who any game he started for Miami, he led us in tackles. This kid's a freshman. So, or any game he played in, he led us in tackles. He comes in the last 8 minutes of Bethune-Cookman game, leads us in tackles after Shaq Quarterman and Mike Pickney played the entire game up until that point. He comes in for La Tech and starts for Pickney next to Shaq Quarterman, leads the team in tackles that game. So whenever he gets a chance to touch the field, Sam Brooks from Miami Northwestern, a freshman edge rusher from Miami Northwestern, moved in to linebacker. He flies all over the field and flashes on the screen. And that's what you look for in linebacker. Are you flying around? Are you hitting people? And are you flashing on film, especially as a young linebacker? But next to him, you're going to have McLeod, number 53. He's going to have a chance to come in and solidify while he was a part of the Bermuda Triangle of the 2016 recruiting class with all 3 of those linebackers. And he was the highest rated linebacker out of all 3. Injuries have really held him back from having a chance to show who he is. And he was a 3-4 inside linebacker in high school. But in order to play in 2016, he had to play the strong side linebacker next to Pinkney, who was our weak side, and Shaq, who was our middle. Now he gets to come in and be the middle linebacker and show us, what he can bring to the table. So we lose a lot of experience, both at defensive end, defensive line, and linebacker. But we infuse that with a lot of athleticism and young men who are hungry to get after the QB up front and to hit people in the mouth at the linebacker position.
Like, comment, share the videos, subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Head on over to the Wholesome Ones channel, HOLSUM, the number 1, HOLSUM, the number 1 on YouTube. You won't regret it. A lot of speculation about the transfer portal and players coming and going. Miami coming up with 2 excellent additions in De'Ara King, of course, and Quincy Roche. Dijon McDonald in the live chat asking about Tariq Black. So Tariq Black has been kind of an underperforming receiver at Michigan. Michigan's been loaded at wide receiver, and he was certainly a guy that was a top 15 rated wide receiver coming out of high school. He was the number 1 player in his state in Connecticut. Obviously, Connecticut's not a football-rich state, but he was a near top 100 player, regardless of position, coming out of high school. Now, as a freshman, he caught 11 passes, then he caught 4. This past season, he was utilized more, 25 catches, 323 yards, and a touchdown for Michigan, and he's in the transfer portal. Just checked out the 247 look at him, and they're projecting him to go to Boston College, which makes a whole lot of sense based on where he's originally from. In Connecticut, it's only like an hour away, hour and a half away. So I don't know if you've heard any rumors out there about Tariq Black, but obviously he's a talented kid. Hasn't produced a whole lot in college, but got a little bit more play for Michigan this year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's one of those young men that when at healthy, he's definitely a top 10 wide receiver in the country. His early on film at Michigan before he started to get, because that was a big thing. He's been injury prone over the last 2 seasons while at Michigan. And like you said, underwhelming, unfortunately, because he just keeps getting hurt. It isn't like he has the dropsies or he's a bust. He's an injury prone. Hey, we'll wait. We'll wait on that prediction, man. I will actually be there live in color. So I'll finally get a chance to meet one of my favorite coaches, Coach Mario Cristobal. I'll finally get a chance to meet him and shake his hand. Well, the newer Mario Cristobal, because I've actually had family members that have coached for him when he was at FIU. But now I'll be able to meet him when he's at his peak. I'll let him know he's not there just yet. When he wears this again, he'll be at his peak. But it'll be nice to be able to shake hands with him and ask him to take it easy on us, But at the end of the day, that Bison is going to roll, baby. Roll hurt. But to finish on the Tyreek Black, I saw that and I had to say something about that. But
that's why I put it up there.
Just to throw me off a little, huh? Tyreek Black is a young man that I would love to have come because I think he has 2 years of eligibility, correct?
Yes.
I believe that's what I read on him.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we could bring him in and have him as a big brother to our young wide receiving core. But we want to infuse the wide receiver or any players from the transfer portal with people that are going to come help Miami win immediately. That's what the transfer portal is for, in my eyes and in the eyes of Coach Manny Diaz. Because the 2 places he wants to bring someone in is wide receiver and offensive tackle who can come help us now. So I wish him the very best. I actually like Tyreek Black. I think he's a cool dude. Followed him on social media for years. I mean, he's always been one of those guys that he's extremely humble and hurt about the fact that he's always injured. You know how fans are. They attack people and, oh, you're a bust or you suck just because he always had those ACL injuries, man. I just wish him the best and hopefully he can take another step moving forward here soon. But as far as him being a Miami Hurricane, I've heard about it. I know that Coach Manny Diaz has contacted Tyreek Black. I know that they have both communicated on these things and him coming down. So we will see what comes out of that. But if we don't have him come in, to me, I would just go and bring back Hightower, who entered the transfer portal because of a situation issue with Dan Enos. And Dan Enos is no longer an offensive coordinator here. So Brian Hightower, come on back to the U, man. We might have to punish you a little bit, but come on back, man. Come on back.
We got Raymond Reddington on the line asking Wholesome One, why do you say at defensive tackle you're concerned with Nesta Ford and the New York boys with 1 to 2 cycles under Feely?
My concern, because the question was about the front 7, so that's why I had to speak on the entire front 7. The reason why is it's a lot of unprovenness in the interior at this point. John Ford, he was a project player coming out, and he still hasn't taken that step yet. And maybe it's our fault for always thinking he's going to be RJ McIntosh because they are similar size and similar body type to a certain extent. And I think that he will have no choice but to get better knowing his last go-around. He's someone that I have openly spoke about, John Ford. Someone I've openly spoken about had a wrist injury majority of the season. And when he was healthier with that wrist injury, you saw him disengaging and full bull rushing from people. But I haven't seen him truly disengage. I haven't seen him when somebody, as soon as the ball snaps, quick swim over, go make a play. I haven't seen that. He's always engaging with people and then trying to walk them back to the QB as opposed to full disengaging from somebody, then rip up off of and go make a play. I don't see him do those things. With Nasty Nesta, he's a bull rush guy, and it's hard to stop. I've seen him even dominate games when he was in high school with the bull rush. He's young. My concern isn't with them not being good enough. My concern is with the production and the youth and inexperience at interior line. That's my concern because I know personally, and I also have seen it plenty of times across college football, not only at the University of Miami, but you rarely see young players dominate interior-wise on either side of the ball unless they're just really, really good to great players. You usually see your 20, 21, 22. You want to talk about even guys in 6th year like Gerald Willis, your 23-year-old defensive tackles or offensive guards or centers dominate because they're grown man strength. They've been 3, 4, 5 cycles in strength and conditioning, in practice, in learning how to play interior defensive line, interior lineman, the trenches. So it's not like I spoke about before. It is not me disrespecting our interior linemen by any means, but I did have to speak on the youth and inexperience at defensive tackle.
Got a comment coming up here from 904 Hurricane. Interesting. What is the single season sack record? Of course, Greg Russo was unbelievable in not starting the first few games and then racked up, I think, what was the second or third highest total of sacks in the nation. So here's your answer, 904 Hurricane.
It's 17 sacks.
17 sacks from Greg Russo again, and had spot duty the first maybe 3 games.
No. Greg Russo had 15 and a half. The record is 17.
The record at Miami, 17.
Yes. And
okay,
he had 15 and a half this year.
Who holds the record?
Woo! You got me on that one.
Okay, I'll look it up here.
I was confident in how I delivered it. I didn't know who did it, but
so I went to the national level.
Oh, okay.
And the unofficial record, this is similar to the NFL. So if anybody asks the sack record in the NFL,
22.
Deacon Jones is often credited with compiling the most sacks in a season, but they did not keep it. So somebody's gone back and they've watched all the film, they've checked out all the box scores, and they've filtered it through to determine that Deacon Jones had the most sacks in an NFL season, but it was unofficial. And then they didn't start keeping sack totals until the early 80s, and Mark Gastineau had the sack record until Michael Strahan broke it for a single season in the NFL a few years ago. But on the collegiate level, so similarly to Deacon Jones' record, unofficially Derek Thomas at Alabama had 27 sacks in 1988, 27 sacks. Now, officially, since the stat has been kept, Terrell Suggs of Baltimore Ravens fame had 24 with Arizona State in 2002.
Personal favorite player of mine. Personal non-Hurricane favorite of mine, but I'm getting after the QB, man. There's nothing like rushing the passer. Nothing like rushing the passer. And a lot of people can do it from the exterior, being able to fly up the field. And of course, you know, you got your step count. When those offensive tackles start kicking, you already know at what step do they technically engage? At what step do they keep that shoulder back, or at what point do you see them start to lean as they kick? And you know for a fact that this is definitely a pass play, and they're just trying to make me push past the QB. One of my biggest things that I have seen is thinking about the future sack records now that it's become more of an offensive and a spread, both in NFL and in college. Could you imagine if Terrell Suggs? Could you imagine if Jason Taylor, from my shout out to my Miami Dolphins fans down there? What about guys like LT? You know, considered one of the top 3 defensive players regardless of position, or maybe even top 5 NFL players regardless of position in NFL history. Or if you want to bring it home to the U, what about our beloved Warren Sapp, who's one of the very first pass rushing interior defensive tackles? As far as being able to be that 3 technique and that Tampa 2 that shoots up the field and make plays in the backfield. You know, rushing the passer and getting after the QB. The biggest thing is you have to earn that opportunity. We talk about Gregory Rousseau getting 15 and a half. That makes it even better that we only averaged a little over 14 points per game. I mean, if you take out the FCS versus Bethune-Cookman 63, and if you take out the Louisville versus the worst defense, I mean, we were averaging atrocious amounts of points. This young man still was getting sacks. No matter who he played, he was getting after the QB. Even when they said he was injured, and that's why they didn't start him over Scott Patchen, and he still had sacks against Florida.
The wholesome one bailing me out. I think you could see me just losing it there.
Oh, I got you,
last
man.
response, man.
I know what it's like. I know what
My
it's
goodness.
like.
my voice just didn't have another word or two in it. But that's our response to the sack record.
I'm actually trying to
Neither
look
one
it
of
up
us
now.
have had time or the opportunity, and it's a long way to go to the 2020 season to prepare for and look at the personnel on any other teams. But just giving it a quick look in the Coastal, who gives you a little scare. And the reason I think of that is Brett Hunter points out here, North Carolina. And I posted a video right after North Carolina's bowl victory over Temple because I watched the game and I looked at North Carolina's season. I looked at their personnel with Sam Howell coming back after throwing 38 touchdowns as a freshman at quarterback. They've got both of their running backs back, Avante Williams and I can't think and seriously, Avante Williams is his name at running back. And Jordan Brown, can't think of the other kid's name. I think it's Jordan Brown at running back. Then you've got three studs at wide receiver in Bo Corrales, De'Ame Brown, and I'm not thinking of the other kid's name off the top of my head. They've got four offensive linemen back. They lose their center and all their playmakers. They lose some productivity and spots on defense. But, man, considering Mac Brown raised them from 2 wins to 7, and they've got most of their production back, especially on offense, man, I really like what they've got going there.
I'm one of those Canes fans that when you turn on the film, I love to watch film. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people being in grad school. I have some time on my hands when I'm not in the weight room or I'm not, uploading film for NDSU. I'm able to sit here and just analyze across college football. And one of the best things that you need to do if you ever want to get into coaching or if you want to do anything in life, and you may want to change the wording on this, is know thy opponent. It's the art of war. Know thy opponent. So I do a lot of research on our ACC Coastal teams, and I also look at some of the athletic teams on the other side that play against your Clemsons, your Tallahassees, your NC States, your Wake Forests, because you want to keep an eye out on your conference. I don't know if Miami's to that point where we can start saying we want to recruit and hold ourselves against nationally, kind of like Clemson did. They don't really recruit and look at themselves as an ACC team. They look at themselves as a national team. So they recruit and they, watch film and they analyze Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama. They look at those big-time schools that they're going to continuously play later on in the season. When I look at the ACC Coastal, 3 teams give me problems. UNC number 1. Number 2, Georgia Tech, moving to that spread and under a very, very active and aggressive younger coach. And the 3rd team is always going to be, for me, Virginia Tech. Those 3 teams, over the last 15 years, they just have a thorn in Miami's side. And it's been a mixture of scheme. It's been a mixture of the coaching hires at those schools to where they always seem to have a coaching one-up on Miami. Miami just had the athletes. Then every now and again, Miami blows them out. Every now and again, Miami wins by 28, 35 points. Every now and again, Miami wins or loses in a shootout when we turn it into a 7-on-7 athlete versus athlete game. But if you look closely in the history of the ACC Coastal, when those other teams turn into this is one-on-one, coach versus coach, scheme versus scheme, Miami hasn't come out on W's on those sides because we had been out-coached for years. All 3 of those teams give me cause to pause. Just as easily as Miami could be number 1, Miami could be number 4 at the end of the ACC Coastal race because what's going on at Georgia Tech. Because you have a great coach like Mac Brown. Yes, I associate the term great. I wouldn't say I associate the term elite. I associate the term great with Mac Brown, one of the best recruiters in college football history. Do your research and think about what he brought in at UNC before he got the big-time job at Texas. He made UNC into somewhat of a little football powerhouse there. They were rolling. And then he got the Texas job. And who's to say if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt, if they don't go on a run that everyone awards to Alabama. And even then, on their 3rd string QB, they were in that game with Alabama in 2009. So make sure you keep that in mind. But yes, I give a lot of respect to our ACC Coastal teams. Miami has not done enough to separate themselves from those teams. And at the end of the day, you respect all teams that's on your roster. Oh, that's on your schedule. You must respect them because they're there. Fear none, but respect them enough to put the research in, put the effort in to continuously show them that you're better than them year in and year out. And we haven't been able to do that at Miami.
The final score of that national championship game, Texas-Alabama, was 37-21. It was 24-21 with 5 minutes left in the game, with the third-string quarterback, Garrett Gilbert, in there for Colt McCoy, who was one of the top 5 quarterbacks in college football, and Mac Brown, pointing out what he was able to accomplish at North Carolina. This is stunning. He took over a team that went 1-10, and they went 1-10 for his first 2 years, so they probably weren't thinking too highly of Mac Brown at that point. By the end of his tenure, he had racked up 7 consecutive top 25 finishes. His last 2 teams went 10-2, number 6 in the country, and 10-1, 11-1, number 4 in the country. So he had 2 top 5 teams his last 2 years at North Carolina, and racked up 10-2 and 11-1 seasons at North.
There you go. And that's the only way you get, because I think Texas is definitely a top 3 job in college football. At the University of Texas at Austin is a top 3 job in college football. And the only way you get that type of job is if you're making noise. Charlie Strong, a lot of people don't want to give him credit, made a lot of noise at Louisville. Some people say may not have been the right hire at the time, but when you look at who was on the market, he was making the most noise out of all those coaches. They brought him in, he did up and down. You look at Tom Herman, he made a lot of noise at Houston, beating Oklahoma. I think it was 2-0 versus Oklahoma at Houston. And that's his dream job, is Texas at Austin. So he was able to get that opportunity. So you got to make some noise to get that UT job. But to be honest with you, man, I'm nervous about a lot of them. Like I said, I'm not scared of any one of them. I think Miami, if they came to play, if Miami played their best ball and anyone else in the Coastal played their best ball, Miami wins the Coastal every single year. But that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, not just at Miami, but across college football. Any coach you speak to always says the hardest thing to do is to field the exact same team every single week. I see you got a donation.
Yeah, David Settles, thank you so much for the contribution. I remind everyone that the super chat is on if you'd like to make a contribution. So David Settles cannot express to you the gratitude and appreciation for your contribution. Thank you so much. In future shows, we will have the Wholesome One on. And again, this is the reason why you need to subscribe, turn on the bell, get the notifications, is that we've got to dodge around the schedule because we're both busy, and figure out each and every week when we can get together to do this live stream. So we will put that together each and every week, but it's going to be all over the map. So lock in on the subscription, turn on the bell to get the notifications to know when the Wholesome One's going to be here with us for a 1-hour live stream each and every week. And maybe we can think of one good topic to close it out on. Anything on your mind, Wholesome One? Anything comes to mind that you'd like to close us with?
Well, I want to be able to answer that question that we talked about it for the single season sack record was 17 by Daniel Stubbs.
Oh, Daniel Stubbs.
Yeah, he's the defensive line coach at FIU.
Yeah, Daniel Stubbs then went to the Dallas. He was with the Cowboys for a while. I think he was with the 49ers for a while.
He was a first-round draft pick for the Broncos also.
The Broncos. He started with the Broncos. Okay.
That's who picked him up 17th overall. That's crazy. 17th overall with the Broncos, and he's the defensive line coach at FIU. So, like I said, we were not only coaching against the former head coach at FIU, we were coaching against some Canes on that coaching staff that were ready to come and play. Any big time question in there, you see in the comment section that I can knock out?
Well, I know that I'm going to hit you up with this one at kind of a fun topic over the next several weeks when maybe the news dries up a little bit. I want to know who your favorite. So don't shout anything out right now, Wholesome One, because I'm going to leave you plenty of time in the future to talk about this, because I think this is a fun topic. Who your favorite player is right now on the roster? Who your favorite player is all time And we'll get the people involved on the live chat. All of you out there, you're going to get involved in this as well. Favorite player of all time with the U. Who you think, and this is almost impossible to answer, but maybe I'll give you like a top 3 list. Greatest player of all time.
In program history?
Program history.
Oh.
Who you think the best player on the roster is right now.
Okay.
What is the game that you look back upon that gave you the most thrill, greatest thrill, excitement, whether that's from an important standpoint connected to a championship or just you just savor this win more than any other win that you've witnessed? And then what's been the most excruciating, brutal loss?
I think you know that one. I mean, we're not going to talk about that school that's associated with that gut-wrenching loss, but no, I would go a lot more modern with that one, but because I think everyone's going to say that game. I actually have another game that was personal for me.
Yeah, and I think there's just some fun questions out there in regards to looking at the history of the program and people's personal favorites, and there's always a story behind it.
Absolutely. I think that's one thing that me and the great Cam Underwood got in common, man. You give us a topic and we can flow, we can just go on and on with it, man. And especially talking about our Canes, he's had that great pleasure of being an alumni from the University of Miami, which is something that I just would, fingers crossed, would love an opportunity to say, for at some point, whether as a GA assistant or something, say I've actually spent time as a assistant coach or as a student at the University of Miami. That would bring ultimate joy to the wholesome one. But yeah, man, Dante in the house, man. He has a question for me.
Hey, Dante, great question. I think this is a huge question that's going to take a lot of time for the wholesome one to dive into, and I will have my thoughts as well. So we will certainly cover spring ball and preview spring ball. Absolutely. Top to bottom. So we've got plenty of time to do that. So we'll get to that question in future weeks. So again, like, comment, share the video, subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Get on over to the wholesome one, HOLSUM, and the number 1. Lock it in right there for Miami football. And as is always the case, it never fails. We could be on here for 4 hours. This is always the case. The most people that are on the line are always at the end. 134 on the line. That's the highest it's been. So that leads you to do this. This is what you need to do because of that. Need to wait for the video to post, which will take a few minutes. Then you go back and you catch all the stuff that you missed because we covered all sorts of stuff here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And I'm indebted to the wholesome one for making this time available to us each and every week to answer your questions on Miami football.
Absolutely, man. It's one of my favorite things to do is to be knowledgeable enough. That's why it bothered me. I didn't know the SAC guy, but to be knowledgeable enough to answer your questions with truly an opinion, but also with facts to back up why I have that feeling and why I love this University of Miami as much as I do, man. And to represent not only the Holloway name of my family, not only North Dakota State University, my alma mater, and a place that I'm actually as a grad assistant there, and to also represent the University of Miami, the U. It's always a blessing to be here on Mark Rogers TV and to take this platform and do the best that I can with it. And thank all 140 some odd of you that are here. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the Wholesome One channel. And make sure you're always subscribed to Mark Rogers TV. But not only make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell and hit all, because I promise you, Mark Rogers gives the best content on YouTube when it comes to college football. I bring the best content on YouTube when it comes to this. He brings the best content across college football on YouTube, and he truly cares about all of us YouTubers, and he wants to see us all succeed. So I appreciate all of you all being here. Thank you so much. Mark, thank you so much for the opportunity, and let's have a great day.
Absolutely. And Aronov backing me up on Daniel Stubbs' play for San Francisco, where he won 2 Super Bowls. All right, Wholesome One, we'll figure out a time next week. We invite everybody back for some Miami football talk very soon.